is Ryan Etterback with Etterback Real Estate. I'm ready for a jump start.
Man, I forgot my jumper cables.
No, I'm ready to help clients jump on a new home.
But what if they fall off?
And that's why you're the other Ryan.
Get a jump on the new year by clicking the Etterback Real Estate icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
News time is 8 minutes after 8 o'clock here on this Friday morning. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast, streaming to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Attorney General Kwame Rowell announced yesterday his office filed charges against a former road commissioner in DeWitt County for allegedly using township credit cards to make personal purchases and submitting forged receipts. Rowell's office charged 68-year-old Eldon Cusey of Wapella with theft, a Class 1 felony punishable up to 15 years in prison, 4 counts of official misconduct, Class 3 felonies, each punishable by up to 5 years in prison, and 17 counts of forgery, Class 3 felonies, each punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Cusey's next court date is scheduled for March 14th. Rowell said in a statement, government employees have an obligation to use government funds and property responsibly. Taxpayers must be able to trust those who serve on their behalf use their authority for the public good and not to enrich themselves. The Illinois State Police led the investigation into Cusey's alleged misconduct. State Police Director Brendan Kelly said in a statement Thursday, the public must be able to trust public officials to use their tax dollars ethically. ISP's Special Investigative Unit will continue to investigate public corruption and work with the Illinois Attorney General's office to bring to justice those who break the law. In documents filed with DeWitt County Circuit Court Thursday, Rowell alleges when Cusey served as road commissioner, he used the township credit card to buy personal items, including home goods, pet food, alcoholic beverages, and live chickens. Cusey allegedly submitted altered receipts to conceal these purchases. Cusey resigned from his position with the Road Commission in 2022. The public is reminded the defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Assistant Attorneys General Mara Somlo and Haley Bookhout are handling the case for Rowell's Public Integrity Bureau. Central and Southern Illinois are prime locations for carbon storage. That's the message from experts in the field interested in storing carbon dioxide underground in parts of DeWitt County. At the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting, Emil Anderson with Vault 4401 explains this project in DeWitt County is part of the ethanol pipeline running through the Midwest.
So our project goes through 5 states. It's a 1,300-mile pipeline, and we've been tasked by over 30 ethanol facilities and 1 fertilizer facilities to build this midstream infrastructure piece. And it's a dynamic piece of infrastructure with multiple on-ramps and off-ramps. So we'll have utilization ports to really solve the supply chain shortages that we've seen in the past. And then ultimately coming to Illinois for that sequestration over a mile underground. And we were commercially anchored by Valero Renewables. So they reached out to us to build this piece around their 8 facilities, and then we've since added the Poet facilities, their ethanol, Big River Resources, their ethanol. We have one of their plants here in Illinois, up in Henry County, OCI Fertilizer, and Siouxland Ethanol as well.
According to Anderson, the project works with local landowners, and filing for the project goes through the state of Illinois agencies. She indicates a new set of filings happens this week.
So we kicked off what is a years-long process back in 2020, and that was with our original route development. And now we're at the process where we're working directly with landowners on those easement agreements. So at no time do we own the land. We are simply having permanent easement. So it's like a 50-foot permanent easement for our line. And our range of the diameter of the pipeline ranges from 6 to 20 inches, so 6 inches to 20 inches. And then, so right now we are in the process of refiling with the Illinois Commerce Commission. So we originally filed back in the summer, and we officially withdrew that today, and we're refiling tomorrow. And so the reason that is we would have had 2 dockets open to account for an additional sequestration site. So we wanted to streamline the process and have 1 docket open with 1 timeline. So that's kind of where we're at. And that starts an 11-month process where the Illinois Commerce Commission would then give us, at the end of that process, the A-OK to construct our pipeline in the state. And so during that whole time, we're working with landowners on those easement agreements. There's really 3 buckets of compensation for landowners. It'd be the permanent easement, the 50-foot permanent easement, and then a temporary easement of 50 to 75 feet. And that's really for, the piles of dirt that we put on, topsoil in one half, and on the other, the lower soil. And then we also have, the construction equipment. And then the third bucket of compensation is the crop loss damage. And so we're doing 250% of crop loss, and that's really over a 5-year timeline. So we don't anticipate landowners ever reaching that 250%. But if somebody does, that's really indicative of a greater issue. And so that we'll come in and we'll mitigate that issue. And that's all on us. So that's contractually any part of the process, we will handle compensation as well for that.
The ultimate goal of the effort is for carbon capture in DeWitt County and other locations in central and southern Illinois. Representatives from Navigator told the board Thursday more about the basics of carbon storage.
So when we think about where the CO2 is going, it's going deep underground, right? So we've got, what is the storage footprint? We've got 4 Willis Towers stacked up here just as an example of how deep we're going with this. And it's being injected into the Mount Simon, which has a cap rock above it, the Eau Claire Shale. And we're looking at 3 to 6 injection wells, approximately 30,000 acres to accommodate those injection wells. And the amount for this portion of the project that we are contracted with to develop for their Navigator. So there's continuous monitoring that goes on with the wells once they are constructed, and our biggest concern is obviously the long-term safety and integrity of the wellbore and the storage facility. And we'll get into a little bit more detail about what the EPA process is, so that you guys have an understanding of how we go about developing these sites.
Steve Whitaker with Vault explains that that Illinois has been a focal point for research of these projects for many years.
Illinois has been kind of a focal point for this kind of research for about 20 years. And there was mentioned about the Archer-Daniel Midland site. So there's an active project there that is injecting CO2 right now and ongoing with monitoring. So we were involved in that. I've been involved in the Carbon Safe program, where we've drilled a number of wells throughout the state, done a lot of work, collected core, did seismic work, and then tried to characterize the subsurface. So we know quite a bit about the geology here. Jennifer mentioned the Mount Simon, so that's a sandstone that we typically look at, and that's a very deep formation, and it's anywhere from about 1,500 to 2,000 feet thick, and it's right at the base of where, on top of the basement, which we call the Illinois Basin. So the Illinois Basin is this structure where all these rocks are found.
According to representatives from Navigator, this is pure CO2 storage with no other contaminants that will be stored. Whitaker was asked about the efficacy of the transfer of carbon dioxide into the ground. He indicates there is nothing that is 100% risk-free, but did offer how to measure the structure of the well for any deficiencies in it.
I have a question on the well itself. You're saying it's like a mile deep. Okay. How is the casing, once it's down there, how is it sealed for this mile depth? And I assume there's a way that you try to seal it, or you say you seal it, but is that a 100% guarantee that it won't be leakage back up that pipeline?
There's no such thing as a 100% guarantee on pretty much everything we do in life. But the way the wells are drilled is there's a bit that goes down, and there's an empty hole in the earth, right? Now, what we do is put casing in. So the casing is roughly 30-foot stands of casing, and they get screwed together, and you lower them down the hole. So there's a space between that metal and the rock, right, the wall rock. You inject cement. So you go down to the bottom of the well, and you inject a special blend of cement, and that comes up the outside of the casing and between the casing and the wall rock. And so you pump that up till it gets to surface. So you fill up that whole annulus, well, it's the space between the casing and the wall rock with cement. Now that cement blend it's been designed to be able to flow properly and make a good connection. But what we do after that, we let it sit for anywhere from probably 24 hours because it's got to harden. And then we run a tool down the well. It's called a bunch of different, there's a whole range of different kind of instruments. You can lower down the hole and you bring that up and it actually measures the cement bond. It's called a cement bond log, and it uses sound waves. And it actually sends the sound waves out, and it can measure how that is, and it can track whether there's little holes in the cement along there, and it gives you a very good picture of how well that's cemented against the wall rock. And if you see that and you see, well, there's a bit of a gap there are ways to go back in and remediate that, including going into the casing, shooting through that casing so you have holes in it, and then pumping more cement. It's called a cement squeeze, and you can fill up that space. So there's ways to measure the integrity of that bond. There's ways to remediate it, and there's annual testing of the wells, mechanical integrity testing. So you would pressure them up and make sure that the pressure is held so that there's no leakage seen in that well. The well itself, there's another tubing that goes down the center of the well where the CO2 goes down. So the CO2 isn't pumped right down through the whole casing. It's pumped down through a tubing that's central to that. And in that tubing, you can run packers, which isolate zones, and they're expandable packers and that. So we can do a lot of isolation within the wellbore to we do that so that the injection is within a certain zone, and we can measure all that. You can also put gauges and things in the wellbore, so you can measure pressure, you measure temperature. We actually instrument along the well with fiber optics to measure pressure, I should say, to temperature and things like that. So there's ways to measure the well, the integrity of that well, and it's an ongoing maintenance process with them. As I mentioned earlier, there's a special case. You use a chrome casing at the base where the CO2 is being injected. Yeah. So
you mentioned you lived in Champaign, so you're aware of the Monticello fire and the problems that has existed in it.
And that's
in the past,
yep.
It's just something that I personally feel we can't take a risk on. The water is the life.
Yeah, then we don't. We're not. Yeah, well, I agree. I agree with you 100%.
It has to be a better place. My opinion.
That's fine. I mean, you understand the difference between that natural gas storage site and a CO2 storage site.
According to similar to wind and solar projects, there is a financial benefit to this project happening in DeWitt County.
So pipelines aren't taxed in Illinois. We, as good neighbors, we want to be here long term. I live here. This is my area too. But to be good neighbors, we want to have project development agreements with these counties. And so it's kind of like an in lieu of taxes kind of agreement. And so it would be a 30-year term where every year we're paying, instead of like in other states where we're paying property taxes on the pipeline, we pay them to the state and they remit some to the county. This would be directly with your county, and you could decide how to use those funds. And it is a collaborative process. So the project development agreements aren't, here, sign on dotted line, like work with me on that and we can negotiate to get to a point where we're all happy. And so if you're looking at like on the pipeline side, if you're looking at like, the mileage, say like we come in through Iowa, we come to Illinois through Hancock County, say about 30 miles. So that would be like around $600,000 per year that we would give that county.
Board Chair Dan Matthews noted to the board that with all the changes that took place at the state of Illinois level with wind and solar ordinances, he predicted this would be the next domino to fall for the state to come over the top with regulation. Get news anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Members of the FFA learn at home and abroad. Through programs like ICAL, the International Collegiate Agricultural Leadership Program, members travel overseas to learn about global agriculture and international marketing.
Today and every day in 2023, we salute the FFA and our local FFA members.
William A.G. Farms, located at 440 White Pigeon Road in Maroa, is proud to sponsor this National FFA Week feature.
For growers like you, this is more than a profession. It's a way of life, a generational calling, wrapped in community pride. First Mid is a trusted financial partner with comprehensive agribusiness services like lending and insurance. As your ownership or operational needs evolve, you can turn to us for farm management and land sales. We are committed to helping you cultivate a better tomorrow. Because like you, we're not merely invested in the success of your operation, we're homegrown. First Mid, an equal opportunity lender.
Time now for a look at sports. I'm Seth Lawrence with this report. For the second straight year, Monticello meets Prairie Central for a regional title in Class 2A high school boys basketball postseason action tonight in Fairbury. The top-ranked Hawks beat Monticello 65-56 in late January and will look to avenge last year's overtime loss in a regional final at GCMS. The Hawks led late, but Monticello rallied to a 55-51 win last February. Prairie Central enters play 29-2 overall. Monticello is 17-13. Prairie Central rolled at Clifton Central on Wednesday night, while Monticello pulled away in the second half from Iroquois West to advance to tonight's regional championship. Game time is 7 p.m. and can be heard on 95.9 FM WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com. Class 2A regional final action tonight at Clinton High School. Bloomington Central Catholic takes on Maroa Forsyth. From the Auburn Regional, Pleasant Plains takes on Petersburg Porta. Tonight in Bismarck, the host, Bismarck Henning, takes on St. Joe Ogden. In Moments, it'll be Pontiac taking on Piatone. Tonight from Normal U-High, the Pioneers battle Williamsville. From Armstrong, it'll be Catlin Salt Fork taking on Champaign St. Thomas More in Class 1A. Regional championship action. Elsewhere in 1A, from the Cerro Gordo Regional, Decatur LSA takes on Decatur St. Teresa. Tonight in Ridgeview, Lexington battles Leroy. At Toledo Cumberland, it'll be Casey Westfield battling Meridian. Tonight from Tuscola, the host battle Arcola. Class 3A regional final action tonight from Champaign Central. Lincoln takes on Mahomet Seymour. Tonight in Mattoon, Decatur MacArthur takes on Mount Zion. Tonight from Normal West, the hosts will battle Morton, while in Peoria, it'll be Peoria Richwoods and Peoria Manual. Also tonight in 3A, Rochester battles Springfield Sacred Heart. From Rochester, Springfield Sacred Heart Griffin takes on Springfield Southeast. And at the Washington Regional, it'll be Metamora and East Peoria. Terrence Shannon Jr. shook off a slow start in his return from a concussion, scoring 24 of his 26 points in the second half as Illinois rallied from an 18-point halftime deficit to beat number 21 Northwestern on Thursday night. Shannon did not start and found himself back on the bench with 3 fouls as Northwestern closed on a 13-2 run and led 37-19 at the half. But Shannon picked up steam after the break and scored 15 of the Illini's last 24 points as they erased a 14-point deficit in the final 10 minutes and 7 seconds. His tie-breaking drive with 1:16 left put the 19-9 Illini ahead 63-61. And Shannon scored the team's last 5 points, including a pair of free throws that sealed it with 2 seconds to go. Bowie led Northwestern with a career-high 35 points, hitting 6 threes and went 12 for 24 from the floor. Illinois started 0 for 11 from three-point range before Shannon hit 2 threes early in the second half. Matthew Mayer added a 3 and hit 3 free throws after he was fouled during a 14-1 run that winnowed the deficit to 4 with 15:06 left. Mayer gave Illinois its first lead on 2 free throws with 2:36 left. He finished with 14 points and 8 rebounds. Bowie kept chugging away for the Wildcats after scoring 22 in the first half, including 5 threes, as he hit his first 4 shots out of the break to push Northwestern back to a 14-point lead. But Illinois climbed into a 4-way tie for third place in the conference. With 3 games left in the regular season, Northwestern remains in second, but fell 2 games behind Purdue. Illinois will play at Ohio State on Sunday. Elias Pettersson scored 4:45 into overtime as the Vancouver Canucks rallied for a 3-2 victory over the St. Louis Blues Thursday night. Pettersson picked up his 28th goal, beating goaltender Jordan Bennington with a wrister. St. Louis led 2-0 before Miller scored his 20th goal, 9:08 into the third, and Kuzmenko tied it with his 27th in the final minute. Rookie Tyler Tucker scored his first career goal for the Blues, and Alexei Toropchenko had a shorthanded goal. Binnington made 38 saves. Vancouver rookie Arturs Silovs had 20 stops in his third NHL start. Vancouver had a goal disallowed in the first. Miller scored on a delayed penalty at 14:27, but it was waved off after St. Louis challenged for goaltender interference. The Blues scored a shorthanded goal when Chorochenko beat Silovs on a breakaway at 15:25. Pavel Buchnevich intercepted a pass and fed the streaking Toropchenko for his fifth of the season. St. Louis went up 2-0 on a wrister by Tucker at 6:45 of the second. The Canucks challenged the play, arguing the goal was scored on a high stick by Ivan Barbashov, but the original call stood. Barbashov got his 100th career assist. Miller scored a shorthanded goal on a wrister and has 11 points in his last 10 games. St. Louis forwards Brendan Saad and Pavel Buchnevich returned to the lineup. It was Saad's first game since February 14th, while Buchnevich got hurt Saturday against Colorado. The Blues will host Pittsburgh on Saturday. Get sports anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Membership in the FFA is growing. These young people across the United States continue to acquire, both in the classroom and in the field, skills that will serve them for the rest of their lives, preparing to shape the future of American agriculture.
Today and every day in 2023, we salute the FFA.
This salute brought to you by Maroa Ag, your growing partner every step of the way.
Do you know what to do when a car is pulled over on the side of the road? First, reduce your speed. Second, change lanes if possible. Third, proceed with caution. These 3 simple steps can be the difference between life and death. The next time you're on the road, do the right thing. Slow down, move over, and drive like your life and their life depends on it. Sponsored by the Illinois Broadcasters Association. Aired in cooperation with this station. Thanks to the AAA Auto Club for their financial support in the airing of this message.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky pledging a push for victory as he marks the anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, the U.S. imposing fresh sanctions on Vladimir Putin and Russia for the invasion of Ukraine 1 year ago today. While some parts of the country are digging out in the aftermath of a wintry blast, the higher elevations of Southern California racing for a lot of snow. Blizzard warnings posted from the mountains east of L.A. Could be several feet of snow in the coming couple of days. Could be Sunday before power is fully restored in parts of Michigan, blasted by this week's ice storm. The Federal Reserve's preferred barometer of inflation shows that inflation remains a problem in the U.S. economy. There are concerns on Wall Street that could prompt the Fed to further hike interest rates. More details, srnnews.com.
From the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Seth Lawrence with this local news update. Illinois Attorney General Kwame Rowell Thursday announced his office filed charges against a former road commissioner in DeWitt County for allegedly using a township credit card to make personal purchases and submitting forged receipts. Rowell's office charged 68-year-old elder